Step out of the car, now. Don't make this harder than it has to be. Officer Daniel Brooks snapped, his flashlight already cutting through the rain-streaked window before the engine had even gone quiet, the red and blue lights washing the empty highway in sharp pulses that felt louder than the siren itself. And inside, Marcus Reed kept both hands steady on the wheel at 10 and 2, the leather cool beneath his palms, his breath slow, measured, like he'd practiced this moment 100 times before, because in a way, he had. And as Brooks tapped the glass again, impatient, louder this time, his shadow stretching across the door like a warning, there was something in the air, something just slightly off, like a line had already been crossed before a single word of explanation had been given, and neither man knew yet that this stop, this ordinary stretch of asphalt at mile marker 42, was about to become the biggest mistake of the officer's career. Marcus Reed did not move right away, not because he was refusing, but because he understood something Officer Brooks did not, that every second, every gesture, every breath in moments like this could be misread. And so he slowly reached to turn off the engine, the soft click barely audible under the hum of rain hitting the asphalt, his reflection faint in the glass, calm, composed, practiced, a man who had learned how to shrink his presence just enough to avoid becoming a problem in someone else's story, even when he had done nothing wrong. And as he lowered the window halfway, cool night air slipping into the car, Brooks leaned in just enough to look him over, eyes scanning not just for answers but for assumptions, taking in the simple jacket, the older model sedan, the quiet demeanor, and reducing it all to something smaller, something easier to control, while Marcus kept his voice even and clear when he spoke. "Good evening, officer." No edge, no challenge, just respect offered. Without hesitation, even as it was not returned, and somewhere behind them, a passing car slowed slightly, headlights drifting over the scene before continuing on, leaving behind the kind of silence that made everything feel watched, measured, and already leaning in the wrong direction. Officer Brooks did not return the greeting, not even a nod, just a slow, deliberate look that lingered too long, like he was searching for something that justified what he had already decided. And when he finally spoke, his tone carried a sharp edge that cut through the quiet. "License and registration, and do not make any sudden moves." The words landing less like a request and more like an accusation. And Marcus reached carefully for his wallet, every movement controlled, every inch of motion visible. But Brooks let out a short, dry chuckle under his breath, shaking his head as if he had seen this exact scene play out before and already knew how it ended. While another patrol car rolled up behind them, tires crunching softly on the gravel shoulder, its spotlight flooding the interior of Marcus's car, turning it into a stage, and across the road, a couple of passing drivers slowed, their faces briefly illuminated as they looked on, one of them lifting a phone, the glow of the screen unmistakable, capturing everything. And Brooks leaned closer again, voice lower now, but heavier. "You people always say the same thing, calm and polite, like that changes what you are doing out here this late." And for a moment, the air tightened, not with noise, but with the weight of being judged before a single fact had been spoken. Marcus handed over his license and registration slowly, placing each document where it could be clearly seen, his fingers deliberate, steady, but Officer Brooks did not take them right away, instead letting the moment stretch as the second officer stepped out of the patrol car behind, boots hitting the wet pavement with a soft, echoing rhythm that seemed louder than it should have been. And the beam of a second flashlight cut across Marcus's face, forcing him to blink against the brightness. While Brooks finally snatched the documents, glancing at them briefly before letting out a low, dismissive exhale. "Marcus Reed," he read aloud, voice carrying just enough to reach the nearby onlookers, the name hanging in the air like it meant something more than it did. And then he looked back down into the car, eyes narrowing as if the information had confirmed a suspicion rather than answered a question. "Step out of the vehicle," he repeated, firmer now, leaving no room for hesitation, and Marcus complied, opening the door slowly, the interior light flicking on and casting a soft glow over the empty passenger seat. The clean floor, nothing out of place, but the officers did not acknowledge it, did not soften. And as Marcus stood by the side of the road, rain beginning to soak into his jacket, Brooks circled the car once, slow and methodical, like he was building a case out of silence, while the second officer stayed close, watching, saying nothing. And somewhere across the street, a car idled longer than necessary, a phone still raised, capturing every second as the pressure tightened, not from force, but from the quiet certainty that this was no longer about a traffic stop, and Marcus knew it, even as he kept his posture calm. His voice measured when he finally spoke again. "Officer, may I ask why I was stopped?" But Brooks did not answer right away, only stopping mid-step, turning slightly, as if the question itself had just made things worse. Brooks stopped mid-step, turning fully now, the rain catching on the edge of his badge as his hand hovered near his radio, his expression tightening like he had just been challenged in a way he did not expect. And Marcus did not raise his voice, did not shift his stance. He only met the officer's eyes for a brief second before speaking, calm and even. "Are you sure you want to do that?" And something in the way he said it did not sound like defiance. It sounded like a warning wrapped in respect. And for the first time, Brooks hesitated, just a fraction, his fingers pausing before pressing the button, his gaze flicking down to Marcus's license again, then back up, like he was trying to reconcile two versions of the same man, one he had already judged, and one standing quietly in front of him, unchanged, unmoved, and behind them. The second officer shifted his weight slightly, glancing between them, sensing it too, that something about this stop was no longer going the way it was supposed to. Brooks lowered his hand slowly, but the tension did not leave his shoulders. It only shifted, settling deeper as he looked again at the license in his grip, the name, the address, the subtle details that suddenly felt less ordinary than they had a moment ago. And Marcus did not move, did not press. He simply stood there in the rain, water tracing down the side of his face, his expression steady in a way that did not match the situation. And that was what made it stand out. Not fear, not anger, just a quiet certainty that did not belong on the side of a dark highway at midnight. And the second officer took a small step closer, lowering his flashlight just enough to glance at the documents, his brow tightening, as if something clicked into place, something Brooks had missed. And from the open driver's side door, the interior light revealed a slim leather folder on the passenger seat, barely noticeable before, now catching the edge of the beam, its corner stamped with a faint emblem that looked official, precise, not something casually carried. And Brooks followed the direction of the light without meaning to, his eyes lingering for a second too long before he looked back at Marcus. But the shift had already happened, subtle, almost invisible, yet impossible to reverse. And when the radio on his shoulder crackled with static, followed by a voice requesting unit identification, Brooks hesitated again before responding, his tone no longer as sharp as before. "Unit 12, traffic stop, mile marker 42. But even as he spoke, his gaze flicked once more toward that folder, toward the man in front of him, as if he was starting to realize that the version of this situation he had built in his head was beginning to fall apart piece by piece. And somewhere behind that realization, the first hint of doubt settled in, quiet, unwelcome, and growing. The radio cracked again, sharper this time, a different voice cutting through the static with authority that did not ask for attention but commanded it. "Unit 12, confirm status immediately." And before Brooks could respond, another set of headlights approached from the distance, slower, deliberate, a black SUV pulling onto the shoulder with quiet precision, its engine idling low as the driver door opened. And the man who stepped out did not rush, did not raise his voice. He simply walked forward with the kind of presence that shifted the air without effort, his gaze moving from Brooks to Marcus, then down briefly to the license still in Brooks's hand. "Officer," he said calmly, "I believe you are holding federal identification." And Brooks frowned, confused, his grip tightening slightly before he looked again, really looked this time, at the card he had treated like any other, the seal catching the light, the title printed beneath the name. And the moment it registered, his posture changed, not dramatically, but enough to show the crack, while Marcus reached into the open car door, retrieving the leather folder with steady hands, opening it just enough to reveal the badge inside, clean, unmistakable. And when he spoke, his voice remained even, unchanged from the beginning. "Marcus Reed, Internal Affairs." A pause, just long enough for the weight of it to settle. This stop is now part of an active review. And the silence that followed was no longer empty. It was final. Brooks did not speak right away, his shoulders stiff as the weight of the moment settled in. The rain now louder than anything else as it tapped against the pavement and the hood of the car, and slowly, almost mechanically, he handed the license back with both hands. No trace of the earlier edge in his voice, just a quiet, controlled restraint that came too late to matter, while the second officer stepped back, creating distance that had not been there before, and Marcus closed the folder. Calmly, giving a small nod, not of approval, not of victory, just acknowledgement, before turning toward his car, the red and blue lights still flashing behind him, but no longer aimed at him. And as he pulled the door open and paused for a brief second, he said without looking back, "Respect is not a courtesy, officer. It is a standard." Then he got in, the engine starting with a low hum. And as he drove off into the dark stretch of highway, the silence left behind felt heavier than the stop itself, like something had ended and something else had just begun.